Happy Mercury Day, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode of Star Watch, which is a weekly astrological transit report for Wednesday, September 28th. All right, everybody, let's go ahead and get into this chart for the week. Now, before we begin, I just wanted to let you know that the big monthly tarot readings that I do every month are finishing uploading now. I'm going to have a few administrative things to do once they've finished their upload process, and hopefully they will be published either very late this evening or early tomorrow morning. Just depending. I'm doing something a little bit different with those. Hope you guys like it. I don't know. We'll see. I'm trying to offer a little bit more value. So let me know what you think. Okay. If not, we'll go back to the old format. No problem. Okay. So let's go ahead and get into this chart. So we have the sun, right? We are well on our way through Libra season. The sun is now sitting at 5 degrees. Hope Libra season is treating you okay so far. Now, Libra season is not always the most friendly season, okay? I mean, it's always cast as being this incredibly romantic sign. And yes, it does have a lot to do with marriage, and it does have a lot to do with partnerships and contractual agreements, but that's exactly it, right? It has a lot to do with contractual agreements and coming together. It is romantic in the marriage context because usually love is involved, but really in Libra season, this is where we come together and we fully commit to either another person or an aspect of ourselves. And this commitment, Libran energy tends to have longevity to it because its exaltation is Saturn. So it does tend to have longevity. And the things that we commit to now are likely to carry forward. They often call this time of year cuffing season, right? Like this is when people get into a relationship for wintertime. But it is cuffing season, maybe in a trendy way, but it's also that because it's Libra season and even Scorpio season as we make our way into November. So it's going to be really important for us to pay attention to the things that we're committing to, especially with the Mars retrograde looming. Mars is now going very, very slow. If I pull up the sheets here, we can see Mars is slow. He's just going to continue to get slower and slower and slower. And he is pacing us. He's ensuring that we are taking things step by step. We don't want to do anything haphazard. We don't want to do anything that's not ultimately in our best interest or that's not ultimately aligned with the things that we truly hold dear to our hearts and that we truly, truly value in this world. Because if we start committing to things, then these commitments are going to turn into obligations that may become quite burdensome. So just keep yourself free and clear for the next couple of months. I think once Sagittarius season hits, we'll have a little bit more wiggle room there. But unless it's something that you are for sure, 100% certain about, I would say stay out of it. Keep yourself in a position where you will continue to have options, okay? The sun is now also coming into its opposition with Chiron. Now, this is not officially happening this week. The full moon is going to be conjunct Chiron. All right. So again, I talk about the moons all the time. Since back in July, we had that full moon conjunct Pluto. Then we had a full moon conjunct Saturn, and then a full moon conjunct Neptune, and now another one conjunct Chiron. But I think this is going to be a really healthy moon because we can't escape ourselves, right? Because remember, when the sun is over here, it's going to cast its light over to Chiron. So it's casting illumination and intelligence and cosmic origin essence, if you will, to this asteroid that has a lot to do with our pain and our suffering and our traumas. And because Chiron is in Aries, this has to do a lot with the traumas that we have surrounding our identities. And for some, it may also be a physical health or an issue with your physical body as well. But this is an opportunity to really harness and grasp a new perspective on those traumas. This pain that is maybe surfacing is meant to be released and leveraged. It's what makes you strong. It's what makes you powerful. It's what makes you intelligent. And in a lot of ways, it's what makes you kind if you haven't hardened up because of this pain. But this full moon will be likely emotional. That's not happening till next week. We'll talk more about it next week, but it's happening on October 9th. And that's the day after Pluto goes direct and the day before Mercury comes into Libra. So we have a lot of commotion going on around that moon, and we're building up to it now. So if you are feeling emotional, if you are feeling like you need to process things, please take the time to do that. Libra season can be a highly destructive season. Now, we don't normally think of it like that. We always say, oh, that's like Scorpio stuff. Sometimes we say, oh, that's maybe even Pisces or Aries a little bit. But really, Libra can be destructive as well because it's the beginning of the deconstruction of summer, right? We're taking all that beautiful, full bloom, amazing stuff, and we're starting to watch everything die off and fall to the ground. And so this can be a cleansing time. So it's important to allow the cleansing to happen. And if it means feeling the feelings, then by all means feel it. But for all intents and purposes, this is not technically an emotional season. I mean, we have emotions and we have to feel things, and we can cry or laugh or whatever we need to do to release. We can definitely do all of that. But I think Libra offers that incredibly, because Libra is very Queen of Swords, right? And it's also the Justice card in the tarot. And these are more stoic in nature. So it's almost as though you don't have a choice but to observe yourself watching yourself go through this, right? That's the only choice you have. It's like you feel a feeling, but is it really you feeling it? No. Because the real you is the observer you, it's the witness you, it's the consciousness. Now, we also have Venus coming into Libra tomorrow, all right? For those of you who are members of my Soul Seeker membership, stay tuned because I'm going to be publishing tonight a Venus through Libra video as well. So Venus comes into Libra, and she is absolutely, she's going from I'm not saying she's weak here, she's just scoring at a +1, but when she comes in tomorrow, we can see she jumps up to a +8. So just by moving into her sign of rulership here, she's already like up in the upper leagues with Mercury, Saturn, and Venus. We've got 3 planets in their rulership right now. And she's gonna really offer a stabilizing effect. Now, the stabilizing effect of Libra season, again, is not always pretty. It does require sometimes that you need to add things to balance the scales, and sometimes it means you have to take stuff off. But either way, an action is absolutely necessary. You're going to have to do something. Venus in Libra is so different from Venus in Taurus, where in Taurus, she can be so much more indulgent and like relaxed and passionate and artistic and sexual and all of this. But here in Libra, she has a little bit more of a sense of duty. She's here to ensure justice, right? We use that word with Libra all the time, to ensure fairness, to ensure goodness, and to kind of bring symmetry into life. And because symmetry is like a balance, sometimes there can be a more stark contrast between the good things and the bad things or the not so good things in your life. And it can be clear cut in terms of what is wanted and what is unwanted. And that's because the unwanted balloons up or inflames, or it starts to become more unwanted to help you to realize how much more you even want the wanted. Right, so it's kind of an interesting archetype to really work with. When you work with Libran energy, you find truth in almost all things. And this is a good time to really listen to other people's perspectives, especially when we have Mercury in retrograde, especially people's perspectives that we don't normally agree with. Now, I'm not saying that you're going to end up agreeing with them, but you may discover some layer or kernel of truth that you may not have recognized before that can help you make bigger and better decisions. Okay. This is a very good time to just listen to what people have to say, to keep your mouth closed unless you are explicitly asked to offer an opinion. Mars is starting to slow, I already said this, he's starting to slow way down, but he's slowing down in the Uranian decan, which is the Aquarian decan of Gemini. Now remember, I am using modern Western astrology rulerships. In traditional astrology, this would be ruled by Saturn. So either way, Uranus and Saturnian energy are actually quite different, but that's why I like using the modern rulerships, because I like the inclusion of the outer planets. But either way, there is going to be something that is going to need to deconstruct for the sake of reform, right? For the sake of establishing balance, for the sake of bringing things into order. One of the things to think about with Libra, they're often seen as great mediators. Not necessarily negotiators unless you have a really strong Mars placement, but mediators, right? Or judges. They're not usually attorneys so much as they are judges. And that's because they have, I'm not saying Libran people, but the Libran archetype has this ability to collect all the information and be calm, cool, collected, right? It's a diplomatic sign, calm, cool, and collected, but it doesn't like to make decisions until it has all the facts, because it knows that a decision, that's why some Librans can be stereotyped as being indecisive, but it's because a decision can have big consequences sometimes, and you don't want to make a frivolous decision all the time. Right? You definitely don't want to be frivolous in Libra season. All right? Because then it carries over into Scorpio season. You can be like, oh my gosh, what did I do? But to make reform in your life, you don't want to just be building something just for the sake of building something, right? You want to be building something for the sake of making it better, building upon the good and the long lasting or the everlasting, building on the good to improve and make better, rather than building on a broken foundation. So yes, Libra, and also especially Scorpio, which we have a new moon eclipse building up at the end of October, it is about elimination. Okay, so eliminating the broken, eliminating the fear, eliminating the trauma, getting rid of all of that, purging that from your system, starting right now. And Mars doing a retrograde in the Uranian decan is going to help us reform and restructure our life, okay? Now, we also have Venus and Mercury. Now, Mercury is going to be going direct on the 2nd. So this week, coming direct on the 2nd, but still in rulership. And as it makes its way into the latter degrees of Virgo, it is going to be coming into a trine with Pluto. Now, this trine with Pluto is kind of special because this is the last time that Pluto is really going to be in Capricorn, with the exception of when he retrogrades back into Capricorn through 23. It's not really his last time, but this is his last big push. So on October 8th, he's going to be going direct. And this trine here, I think, is really going to help us, because he did a retrograde, right? So this trine with Mercury here kind of went back and forth a little bit with Pluto in a positive aspect. We like trines. These are Jupiterian in nature. There's a lot of flow and fluidity, which means that our inner psyche and the deep, dark corners of our minds, that stuff is not hidden to us. It is not something that is inaccessible. Mercury is that messenger, right? He can go, he was the only god that was allowed to go everywhere, up to Mount Olympus and down on earth and down to Hades, right? He was the only one that could do all of it. And he likes to go down to the underworld because I think it affords him to bring up something valuable, right? He's not just frivolously going back and forth. It's not about superficial things here. This is about deep yearnings and deep desires of our soul. And so right now, right now, I'm not saying you have to have your whole life figured out, but I just don't think that there are that many questions in terms of what you value. And maybe we spent all year trying to figure it out, but hopefully you do have it figured out now of what do you value? Do you value love? Do you value belonging and acceptance? Do you value freedom? Do you value new experiences? Do you value your health? Like, what is it that you truly value, and what do you prioritize? And what actions are you willing to start taking to prove that you value those things, so that the real manifestations, the real goals can truly come into your life? Because when you align with the things that you value, and that has to be done through action right now. This is not just a sit down and meditate type of situation. We have to take action. We have to show the universe, not only am I wanting this thing, but I am actually willing to change myself vibrationally to align with those things. All right, and this is what the reform aspect of this Mars retrograde is all about. And we're going to see that politically as well as we build up this whole month. There's going to be probably a really weird October surprise with the politics, with the midterm election here in the United States. I mean, I honestly think it's going to be, and from this point, right, beginning of November with the midterms all the way through the primary election in the next couple of years, it's just going to be like the craziest thing we've ever seen, because Saturn is going to be making his way into Pisces, Pluto coming back and forth between Aquarius and Capricorn. It's just going to be like this whole big thing. But for us as individuals, it begins truly right now. So while the world is trying to figure out what it needs to become, so are we, right? As above, so below. We can't completely disassociate ourselves from what's going on in the world, because we are a part of it. And we are going to be going through the same types of things. And this new moon eclipse is happening in Scorpio at 2 degrees. And then the full moon eclipse in Taurus is happening on November 8th. I know I'm way ahead of myself, but just preparing you, which is happening conjunct Uranus. So, Mars and Uranian decan eclipse conjunct Uranus, yet again, Uranian influences in these eclipses. I mean, this is the time for us to show ourselves, to respect ourselves enough, right? To say, I am willing to change and I am willing to evolve in the way that I need to evolve. And by putting your money where your mouth is and proving it to yourself. You don't have to prove it to anybody else. No one else cares. You have to prove it to yourself. And if you say you want the things you say you want, how are you willing to alter your behavior to show how much you truly value that thing? Okay? Kind of a fun week. I don't know. It's going to be an interesting week. I think the big week is going to be next week, as we start feeling Pluto going direct, the full moon, Mercury coming into Libra, and Mars even slower at that point. Mars and Saturn both slowing way down, preparing for their change in direction. So October is just going to be highly eventful. All right. Thank you all so much. I love and adore you. Have an amazing week, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care.